If you've been thinking about getting a tattoo lately, you've likely noticed that the cost seems to be climbing now faster than ever. Are these higher prices just a reflection of higher costs, or could something more be at play? Today we're exploring the reasons behind these soaring tattoo costs, and if these high prices are even reasonable. Plus, I'll give you some tips on how to navigate this high-priced landscape without compromising on quality. If you look up what the most expensive tattoo in the world is, you'll find a lot of coverage of this almost $1 million tattoo that took only 8 hours to complete. But then you'll find out that it's actually not a tattoo at all, and it's just a bunch of diamonds stuck to a woman's back. And this seems to be some sort of clickbait or strange marketing campaign from 2013 that people still report on to this day as being the most expensive tattoo in the world, which is so weird. Clearly, that's not the case. And realistically, we may never know exactly what tattoo is the most expensive in the world. But I think we're safe in assuming that it's likely something that was done by Ganga Tattoo Studio's team of artists who put people under anesthesia for huge tattoo projects with multiple artists. Ganga can be a little cagey about the prices that he charges for this service, so I decided to just call up the studio and see if they would give me a price estimate over the phone. And to my surprise, they actually did, and they told me it would be anywhere from $25,000 to $75,000, depending on how big the design is and how many artists you need. And I'm kind of surprised by how low that estimate is. Maybe that's just the price they tell people over the phone as to not scare them out of doing this. And that's not to say that $75,000 or $25,000 for that matter isn't crazy expensive. But in an interview with Complex Magazine about Lil Uzi Vert's whole body tattoo, Joaquin Ganga, who is the owner of Ganga Tattoo Studio, said that they charge roughly $100,000 per day and that they did this tattoo in 2 full-day 8-hour sessions. So we can assume the total for this specific tattoo was around $200,000. So while it's not almost $1 million, it's probably up there in the most expensive tattoos. And honestly, it's hard to gauge even an average price for a tattoo. And that's because tattooers are typically independent, and tattooing has been a cash economy for a long time. So a lot of tattoo transactions aren't even recorded. And on top of that, there's still a stigma in the United States about talking about money in general. So people are less likely to talk about the prices of things that they've paid for. I feel like there's this huge gap between customer expectations of what they should be paying and what tattooers are charging for tattoos. And I think this gap is more prevalent now than it has been in a long time. So I found 2 tattoos on Reddit that have their price tag attached, and I asked you all in a community post to guess how much the tattoos were. And we're gonna get into all of those guesses in a moment, but I wanted to tell you all about an app that's been a game changer for me and my relationship. The Paired app is an app for couples that offers daily questions, relationship games, quizzes, and exercises to help couples communicate more and better. I personally love exploring all of the conversation topics that the Paired app has. It has things like intimacy, finances, communication, conflict, and so much more. In the communication section of the Paired app, you'll find activities that make talking with your partner more meaningful. For example, there's a daily check-in where you both share your thoughts and feelings using prompts from the app. And this can really help with making you and your partner feel more connected. One of the sweetest things you can do with the Paired app is collect your relationship memories. So things like photos and notes on the timeline feature. I just went on my first trip with my partner, so I added that into our relationship memories, and I can't wait to look back on all of these memories that we've collected together. And that's not all. The Paired app also has a journeys feature. So you can take this one for example, how to be a better partner. This is a month-long journey guided by the experts behind the Paired app that you go on with your partner. We can do exercises every single day that steer us into being better to each other. So if you're interested in everything that the Paired app has to offer, I'll have a link in the description box down below that will get you a 7-day free trial and 25% off Paired Premium so that you can maintain and deepen your connection with your partner too. So thank you so much to the Paired app for sponsoring today's video. Now back into those tattoo prices. This first one is a traditional Japanese piece done on the side. I think it's really great. It's in full color. The Reddit user who posted this was Kush Bush, and the tattoo artist was James Tex. And there were a lot of guesses on the price of this. Bucko Donghale writes, "I've watched enough prices right, $25,001. Bouncy Clouds writes, "You could tell I never got tattooed before because I thought $600. I wish we lived in a world where this was $600. I think we all wish that." Abby writes, "700 doll hairs." The price guesses went all the way up to $17 million, but this user got it exactly right. Bina Babies wrote $1,400, not including tip. And that's exactly how much this Reddit user paid for this full color Japanese side piece. And I feel like I was a little unfair with this one because this was done 8 years ago. So I feel like this is an incredible deal for this tattoo. But considering it was 8 years ago, I think that that is pretty fair. Something like this nowadays, I think would be closer to a lot of your estimates that are around $3,000. But this next tattoo I asked you all to guess is this feather tiger eye design. And this was posted by Reddit user MountainAd5762. I don't have more info on the artist or anything. And a lot of people didn't like this tattoo. Sheila G even said, "Why does it look like a set of balls or something in the middle?" I didn't even notice that, but now I can't unsee that. BioDorkUs wrote, "At one of the shops I've been to, that would probably cost $2,000, no joke. Somewhere else with quality but less experienced artists, maybe $450. Tattooing is wild." That is so true, and I feel like that encapsulates like exactly what this video is about. Mad Barber says 50 pounds, no more. Rug Muncher Sauce says $4. And actually no one got it exactly right on the community post, but I'll give it to this user Kelfire who wrote 400 to 12,000. IDK shops have a wild range in pricing. This tattoo was $550, and this was posted 2 years ago. I do think that that is kind of high priced. I don't think the tattoo looks so bad. I can't get the whole center nose thing out of my head, but it does seem a little steep for this tattoo. And it makes sense why all of these price estimates were all over the place. Tattoo prices are also all over the place, and it can depend on so many different factors. The website Inksole has a blog post where they kind of average out general tattoo prices, and this is the best guide that I could find that I personally think is reasonable. They wrote a small tattoo that's 1 to 2 inches should be around $50 to $150. For a medium 3 to 6 inch tattoo, it should be around $150 to $500. And for large tattoos over 7 inches, it can range from $500 to $2,000 and up. This list seems like a good general representation of tattoo prices, but definitely let me know if this is normal for where you live. Tattoo prices are particularly dependent on the location and generally the years of experience of the artist. Although there is a lot more that goes into tattoo pricing. Things like inflation, tattoo style, placement. Placement is a big one because certain parts of the body are a lot more difficult to tattoo than others. And another thing that really affects tattoo prices is simply working in a tattoo studio. When you're a tattoo artist and you're hired by a tattoo shop, you're either paying a flat monthly rate for a spot there to tattoo at, or you're paying a percentage of every tattoo you do to your studio. And when you're first starting out in a new tattoo studio, or when you're first starting out in the tattoo industry, this percentage could be as high as 50-50. So you're giving half of what you earned directly to the studio. And this is where I think we've run into a little bit of an issue lately. The tattoo market boomed post-COVID. I feel like a lot of us know this. And that's when we saw an influx of a lot of new tattoo artists joining the industry. And there's absolutely no issue with any of these new artists. I am also one myself. But some of these new artists found out how much they need to invest in tattooing and how much of their income is likely going to the shop that they work at. Remember all of those videos that were pretty popular this time last year of artists explaining how much each of their supplies cost to justify their prices? I think we definitely had a moment post-COVID where newer artists were charging relatively high prices because they couldn't afford to tattoo without doing so. This TikTok user, Johnski215, spoke about this in a TikTok that was posted last June.
Tattoo prices and tattoo culture in 2024 sucks. Personally, I don't give a how many Flannels and Joy Division albums you own. I'm not paying you $300 an hour for a traditional tattoo. And to clarify, I have no problem paying people what they're worth. But not for 1 second can you convince me that someone who's been tattooing 3 years or less is worth $300 an hour. That is surgery money.
Johnski goes on to explain that he was looking for tattoo quotes for a palm-sized traditional tattoo, and he was quoted upwards of $2,000 for it, which I also agree is outrageously expensive for a palm-sized traditional piece. Someone in the comments wrote, I was quoted $600 by an apprentice for a medium-sized traditional tattoo. An artist with 10 years plus of experience charged me $200. Someone else wrote, recently heard a story from an artist who was upset that a customer didn't tip 20% on a $4,000 tattoo. And that brings us into our next point, the absolutely hideous culture of tipping in the United States. And this one's complicated because when I'm tattooing, I don't think we should be expecting any sort of tip. But when I'm getting tattooed, I do feel a pressure to tip at least 20%. This TikTok creator, I Porked It, posted a video about how much you should tip for a certain price of a tattoo, even going as far as to say that if you got a really bad tattoo, you should still tip them $10.
$100 to $200. Probably tip you $20 to $40. $200 to $400, probably anywhere from $40 to $60. Wrist to elbow, something like that. It's gonna live with you a long time, maybe $150. Like ankle to knee, probably be something like $200, $250. If they do a real job, throw them a 10 on the sly anyway, just for saying thanks for giving me the time of your day to do this, and then come to me and I'll fix it for you.
And this is no hate to that creator. This is just their opinion. We're all entitled to our own opinion and ways of doing things. I personally wouldn't tip someone who did a really bad tattoo on me, on top of the money I'm already paying to get tattooed. And this seems to be mostly the complaint from clients. They argue that tattoo artists are setting their own prices, so they shouldn't be expecting more than that. This commenter writes, why would you tip someone who sets their own price? Why not set a price that reflects your work and time to begin with? That takes guessing and disappointment out of the equation. I didn't tip at all for my first tattoo because I didn't know that it was customary, and I think about it and feel bad all the time. I have been exactly where this commenter was. One of my very first really big pieces I didn't tip for because I didn't think that you had to. And I also felt really bad about that for a really long time. And it wasn't until I got into the industry that I realized, yeah, tipping is great and it does benefit a lot of artists and it's a great way to show that you really support someone's art. But I don't think it should be a necessity, especially 20%, because 20% on hundreds and hundreds of dollars is a lot of money. In this TikTok that now has 2.9 million views, this user DSAP posted that they went and got their first tattoo and it was $100, which they thought was really expensive for this small outline. This tattoo is a little dry, I think it's fine, but I do understand why clients think things like this are too expensive. And that's why the top comment on this video is shop minimum, babe. Shops have minimums for a reason. Even if it's a tiny little dot, an artist does need to be charging a certain amount of money to at least make a tiny bit of money on that tattoo. And when you just want a super tiny little tattoo like this, unfortunately, it will just be a shop's minimum, and you're not necessarily getting your money's worth for something like this. Sometimes artists will say you can get like 2 or 3 tiny little tattoos for our shop minimum, which I personally think is fair. But if you just want one tiny little tattoo, you may be paying a lot for that. I think we're starting to see the effects of this potential artificial inflation of price due to the influx of the amount of younger tattooers there are in the industry right now. I feel like that's why we've heard all these rumors about a tattoo apocalypse and a bunch of artists complaining that they are slower than they've ever been. I'd argue that in really populated areas, tattooing has reached market saturation. And market saturation arises when the volume of a product or service reaches its maximum threshold. If you're following any tattoo artist on Instagram that lives in a major city, I'm guessing that you've likely seen that tattoo artist offer really low discounts for some of their work. And it's because the market is far too saturated. And on top of that, general people with no real tattoo education can pick up a tattoo machine on Amazon and tattoo themselves at home for very little money. And I feel like all of this has brought the general perception of how much a tattoo should cost way down. And I'd say that this is only happening in the United States, but I actually found this Reddit article about a UK tattoo artist. So this was posted by Jacob Isaac, and it's entitled Price Wars. Jacob is a UK-based tattooer who has seen prices go as low as 50 to 80 pounds for traditional hand-sized tattoos. Jacob is questioning why so many artists are feeling the need to lower and lower their prices. And there are a lot of debates in the comments about why you should never do this or why you should do this. But the reality is that it is happening. And I do think that majority it's due to the market saturation. Fortune Business Insights wrote an analysis of the global tattoo market where they explained that the current tattoo market brings in about 2.2 billion, and that is expected to grow to more than 4 billion by 2032. The study cites the growing number of tattoo artists, tattoo shops, and the growing global demand for tattoos. But I don't entirely trust these numbers because for every 2 tattoo studios that I know are operating legally, I at least know one that's not. And like I said, tattooing has historically been a cash economy. So I don't think that these numbers really represent the reality of the situation. From my perspective, it seems like we've really hit a wall with the tattoo supply. And I've already seen many artists quitting tattooing altogether because they can't sustain themselves in this career path anymore. But if you are a client looking to get tattooed right now, I do think there's a really simple way to go about it. When you're inquiring for a tattoo, just be really upfront with how much you're willing to pay in total. And your artist typically can work with you on your budget. As long as it's within reason and you're not asking for an entire sleeve for like $100. If you're looking for a certain piece, you can go to multiple artists, you can be upfront with your budget, and you can probably get a good quality tattoo for a decent price. You also may need to be a little bit more careful with the artist that you choose and make sure that they have at least somewhat of a substantial portfolio and you can see examples of their work and their healed work. So that way you can ensure that you're going to get the best experience and best value for your money. But honestly, it's kind of rough out there. And I've heard of people charging thousands and thousands of dollars and just accepting these prices because people think that they're normal. Tattoo artists will, and they totally, completely have the right to charge whatever they think their art is worth. But I do think it's fair for clients, especially newer clients into the tattoo industry, to have some sort of gauge of what's a reasonable price. Because without this, we've seen a lot of people get scammed out of a lot of money for tattoos that just weren't worth it. But with that, I would love to know what you think about why tattoo prices are so high in 2024. Let me know in the comments down below. Again, quick thanks to the sponsor of today's video, the Paired app. Just a reminder that that link will be in the description box down below. And if you made it to the end of this video, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. If you have, leave me this emoji in the comments so I know that you are a real one. Bye everyone.